A great example. And there are many on the history of this show, but this is a perfect example of the contradictions of Stephen A. Because you just said, no, Stephen A., I'm not putting words in your mouth. I am literally, you just said LeBron is number 2. He is number 2.
Yep.
If he wins a 5th, there's a discussion to be had. Last week, on this very show, while I sat at this very table, you said if Steph Curry wins a 5th championship, you're taking LeBron off the Mount Rushmore.
No.
How do you go? No.
I didn't say that.
How do you?
Lakers post the best record in the West and are behind only the 76ers for the best record in the NBA. Now we got JJ and Wendy back with us. Stephen A., what would a 5th title mean for LeBron?
Well, first of all, his legacy is already cemented as one of the greatest players to have ever lived.
Rightfully so, yes.
We certainly don't want to throw any shade on that as far as I'm concerned, although I think that a 5th title by Steph Curry at this stage of his career, if he were to surpass LeBron James, would warrant a discussion about that Mount Rushmore. LeBron is going to be on my Mount Rushmore as number 2 all time. That's how I feel about him. Having said that, I will acknowledge that I have found it insulting for anybody to think that he belongs above Michael Jordan. If he were to win a 5th title this year, I would no longer feel insulted by that discussion. I would have to concede that, I still ain't putting him above Jordan, but I understand others who might think otherwise. Because for him to take this team from where it was to where it is now, albeit Rob Pelinka deserves a whole bunch of credit for what he's been able to pull off with the trades that brought 4 different players, not just 2 or whatever, 4, in Beasley and
accomplishments of his career. Second is 2017-18, his last year in Cleveland, second time around, played all 82 games, had one of the most brilliant playoff runs in history, kind of had to browbeat the Cavs with some tactics to force them into trades. I won't go into them right now, in addition to playing. Those 2 seasons were tremendous LeBron seasons that, in my mind, burnishes his resume for his greatness level. Nobody will ever see it that way because nobody wants to look into it. What's going on right now fits that. If you look at what's happened this year with the Lakers and what he's gone through and what he's carried the team to and when he's come back from this injury, so regardless of whether he gets the 5th title or not, whether he loses this round, loses the next round, this is very, very, very impressive. But I understand that it's very hard to have a conversation for people who want to count to 6 and then end the conversation. And for people who do that, we'll just end it. But if we have a better conversation about it later, we can.
Wendy, JJ Reddick, I want you to sit back and enjoy this breaking news moment. You're both actually right. I stand down. Jordan's 1, LeBron's 1A, and the things that Wendy said about the 2 seasons that he lost the NBA Finals and how this falls into that category is right too. And since you asked me a question, what I said was, if not LeBron, what are we going to do with Russell and Kareem? Because they say they don't want to remove Russell because of the 11 titles. They say they don't want to remove Kareem because of his resume, and I'm not removing Jordan. That's what I said.
I'm not removing LeBron. LeBron is, doesn't matter what happens the rest of the season, he's number 2.
Okay.
He's number 2.
Okay.
And if you're moving one guy in, if it's Steph, you can't take LeBron off. So
Okay.
I want to clarify that. And I'll answer the question here.
Russ.
To me, regardless of what happens, LeBron's number 2. LeBron is number 2. And whether you talk about
You're right.
careers or the player themselves, the killer instinct, the fear factor, all of that stuff, I think for the large majority of people that watched the NBA in the 1990s, Jordan is their all-time, and there's nothing that can really be done to take him off that top spot.
80s and 90s.
LeBron to me, if you're going to have Jordan 1, LeBron is 1A. And there's nothing that can be done in the future, whether it's winning or losing, that's going to change that for anyone. So I don't think it affects his legacy at all. I agree with your original point, which LeBron James, his legacy is firmly cemented.
Whenever this conversation comes up, I'd like to have a nuanced conversation, and so often it's blown out of the water. 2 of the greatest seasons of LeBron's career resulted in finals losses. One was in 2014-15 when he first came back to Cleveland and he dealt with the injuries, and he also dealt with leadership issues within that team.
As top 2 in the history of basketball, period.
I think we relish in this moment. We relish in this moment, and this is the perfect moment of let's take it in, fellas. Let's not disrupt it.
What an arc in this show.
We take
This is
the
what
arc.
I always say the show is fluid.
The show
is fluid.
and then we're just gonna ride into the sunset.
Now he's agreeing with me.
He's agreeing with you. Let's take this one. We're gonna take it into a break because we.
Brett, they turn the ball over at key moments and what have you, and you just find yourself looking at them and scratching your head and saying, "My God, don't you all remember that you're champions? Don't you remember what it took to become champions? Why can't you resemble that?" That's what I'm looking at right now. I think they'll answer the call in Game 5. I think Game 6 obviously will be very interesting back here at the Crypto.com arena, and then potentially a Game 7. We shall see.
Yeah, they play every other night. So Game 5 is tomorrow night in San Francisco. Game 6, if as well, if there is a Game 7 in San Francisco. Let's talk about the Lakers, though, because this is a team, and Wendy's been pointing it out with us all morning long. I mean, they were 12th in the West with a couple of weeks to go in the regular season. But even then, you and Wendy and others, and Kendrick Perkins, I know on First Take multiple times, said this is a team that if it comes together right, could find themselves making a deep playoff run. And right now, Stephen A., Caesars Sportsbook has them the favorites in the West. Do you think they are?
Well, I don't think they're the favorites as of yet, not with the way Devin Booker and Kevin Durant played last game and the kind of show that Devin Booker, the light-skinned Mamba, that's what I call him, with the show that he's putting on. That's number one. I would remind everybody that Denver's still the number 1 seed in the West, and Jokic just dropped 53. You might not have size on a Golden State Warriors to serve as an impediment to the greatness of Anthony Davis, who, by the way, deserves a lot of props because he finally showed up in back-to-back games instead of taking every to some degree in terms of negating the greatness of Jokic. He did just drop 53. The man